Walk out to your hydrangea again this afternoon. The same plant we talked about last week, the tired one with the flower heads going papery at the edges and the leaves looking like they have had just about enough of August. I want you to look at it differently today. Not as a shrub you are taking care of. As a shrub with 10 more plants standing inside it right now and a window that is open this month and closes when the leaves come down. Last week, I finished by telling you where my hydrangea came from. It was a cutting off my mother's plant. And hers came off a neighbor's plant, and that neighbor has been gone 30 years now. Nobody in my family remembers her name. We still have her hydrangea. A lot of you wrote to me about yours, a plant, from a mother, from a grandmother, from a first house, or from a friend who is gone. So today, I want to show you how that actually gets done, how you take a piece off the plant standing in your yard and turn it into the one standing in somebody else's yard. Long after you and I are finished gardening, here is the thing I want you to hold on to for the next 20 minutes. A hydrangea is one of the very few plants that will make you a free copy of itself if you ask it in the right month. Not a difficult plant, not an expensive one, a free one. I have been doing this for about 30 years. I have rooted hundreds of these and thrown out plenty, so I am going to tell you which parts actually matter and which parts you can skip, because most of what is written about this makes it sound like laboratory work, and it is not. 2 methods today. The first one takes about 4 minutes and requires no skill whatsoever. Most channels do not teach it because there is nothing to film. The second is the one you have probably read about, and I will take you through it properly, including the 3 or 4 small things that decide whether it works or not. And please stay for the last part. Rooting these is the easy half. Almost everybody who loses their new plants loses them in January, not in August, and it is completely preventable once you know what is actually happening. One thing before we start, put your zone in the comments, just the number. It changes the dates I give you, and I do read them. If you are in zone 3, 4, or 5, this is a this week job. Zones 6 and 7 you have until the middle of September. Zones 8 and 9 you have into October. Let's get to it. Which method is for you? Good news first, and it saves us some time. For propagating, it does not matter one bit which kind of hydrangea you have. Bigleaf, panicle, smooth oakleaf, all of them root. If you are still not sure which one is in your yard, I walked through how to tell last week and I will put the link on the screen. So the only real question is which method suits you. Layering, that is method 1, means bending a branch down and burying part of it while it is still attached to the plant. 4 minutes of work one time, very high success rate. You get 1 or 2 new plants ready next spring or next fall. Cuttings method 2 means taking pieces off the plant and rooting them in pots. About 20 minutes of work then, a bit of looking after for 4 or 5 weeks. You get 6, 10, 20 plants if you want them ready to go into the ground next spring. Here is how I would choose. If you want 1 more plant and you want it to work, do the layering. If you want a dozen for the grandchildren for the church sale, for the whole front bed, do the cuttings. Most years I do both on the same afternoon. Method 1, layering. I am starting with the method almost nobody teaches because it is the one most of you will actually succeed with. Here is why it works so well, and it is worth understanding. When you take a cutting and stick it in a pot, that piece has to stay alive on its own with no roots at all. That is the whole problem with cuttings. You are asking a stem to survive with no way to drink. With layering, the branch stays attached to the mother plant the entire time. She keeps feeding it and watering it while it grows its own roots. It never has to fend for itself. That is the trick. That is why the success rate is so high. 6 steps. 1. Find a low branch on the outside of the plant that will bend down to the ground without cracking. This year's growth is best because it is still flexible. Do not use a branch with a flower head on it. 2. Measure back about 8 to 12 inches from the tip. That spot is what is going into the ground. 3. Scratch the underside of the branch at that spot. Take a knife or your thumbnail and scrape a line about 1 inch long just through the green skin. You are not cutting through the branch. You are giving it a reason to make roots there. If you have rooting hormone, dab a little on. If you do not, it still works. 4. Bury that spot 2 or 3 inches deep and pin it down. A garden staple works. A wire coat hanger bent into a U works. A brick laid on top works. I have used bricks for years. 5. Stake the tip so it points up at the sky. Just tie it loosely to a short cane. Everybody forgets this one and it matters. 6. Mark the spot. Put a stake in, tie a ribbon on it, something. Come April, you will not remember which branch you did. I promise you that. And then here is the important part, leave it alone. Water that spot when you water the plant, and that is all. Do not check on it, do not lift it up to have a look. Lifting it is exactly how people break the new roots, just as they are forming. Next spring, give the tip a gentle tug. If it holds firm, it has rooted. Now cut it free from the mother plant with your pruners, and then leave it right where it is for another 3 or 4 weeks before you dig it up. That waiting step is the one people skip. They cut it loose and dig it out the same afternoon, and the little plant which has just lost its supply line has to survive, being moved on the same day as well. Give it a month on its own roots first. One more thing, and this is for anybody who finds getting down to the ground difficult. You do not have to bury it in the ground at all. Put a pot of soil on an upturned bucket next to the plant at whatever height is comfortable for you, and bend the branch into that instead. Same wound, same pin, same result. And you never kneel down. Method 2. Cuttings. Right, if you want a lot of plants, this is how go out in the early morning, not the afternoon. This one detail matters more than most of what you will read about cuttings. In the morning, the plant is full of water. It has been drinking all night, and it has not been in the sun yet. By 3 in the afternoon, it has been losing water through those big leaves for hours, and you would be cutting a stem that is already behind before it starts. Now choose your stems, and here is the part that gets left out almost everywhere. Take stems that do not have a flower on them. A stem with a bloom on it is spending its money on that bloom. You want a stem that is not busy. Look for this year's growth still slightly soft out around the edges of the plant. Often the shoots that came up low or straight from the base. Cut a piece 4 to 6 inches long and make the cut just below a leaf node. A node is the little swollen band where a pair of leaves comes off the stem. That is where roots come from, not from the middle of the stem. Cutting an inch below a node instead of right below it does not ruin anything, but you are throwing away the best part of it. Take the bottom pair of leaves off completely, keep the top 2 leaves, and then cut those 2 leaves in half across the middle with a pair of scissors. That last one looks brutal the first time you do it. It is not cruelty, it is arithmetic. Those big leaves are exactly why hydrangeas wilt in the first place. They lose water faster than nearly anything else in the garden. A cutting with no roots cannot supply full-size leaves. Have them, and the cutting can keep up with itself. Put each one straight into a bucket of water or a damp bag as you go. Do not lay them out on the driveway while you cut the next 10, 20 minutes in the sun, and they are finished before you have even started. And take more than you think you need. Take 8 or 10 if you want 4 plants. Potting them, your mix is half perlite, half ordinary potting soil. Coarse sand works instead of perlite. What you must not use is soil out of the garden. Here is why. Garden soil holds too much water, and it is full of life, fungi, bacteria, all the things that are perfectly healthy around an established plant. Your cutting has no roots and no defenses. In garden soil, it will rot before it roots nearly every time. That is the single most common reason people's cuttings go black at the base. Rooting hormone. My honest answer, hydrangeas root without it. The hormone gets you faster roots and more of them. A small tub costs $4 or $5 and lasts about 10 years. Buy it once and stop thinking about it. If you do use it, poke a hole in the mix with a pencil first, then set the cutting into the hole. If you push the stem straight down into the mix, you scrape all the powder off on the way in. You can put several cuttings in one pot. Just keep the leaves from touching each other. Water once thoroughly right after planting so the mix settles tight around the stems. Keeping them humid, they need humid air until they have roots. You do not need any equipment for this. A plastic milk jug with the bottom cut off, set over the pot with the cap left off, so steam can escape. Free, that is what I use most years. Or a clear plastic bag over the pot with 2 sticks or chopsticks holding it up off the leaves. If the bag rests on the leaves, those leaves rot where it touches. Or if you have a lot of pots, a clear storage tub with the lid cracked open an inch. Now the part that kills more cuttings than anything else, Put them in bright shade, not sun, not 1 hour of afternoon sun. The north side of the house is ideal, or under a shrub or a shaded porch. A plastic bag in the sun is an oven. On an August afternoon, it will cook a cutting in under an hour. And here is what makes it worse: people find them limp and blackened the next morning and conclude they overwatered. They did not overwater, they baked them. Watering under a cover is not much work. Every 5 to 7 days, check that the mix is damp, not wet. If there is condensation on the plastic every morning, you are fine. 3 to 5 weeks for cuttings taken in August. Test them with a gentle tug on the stem. If it resists, there are roots on it. If it slides up easily, push it back down and give it another 2 weeks. Do not pull one out to look at the roots. I know the temptation. Every root you can see is a root you have just broken. New leaves appearing is a good sign, but it is not proof. A cutting can push out a leaf or two on stored energy and then die a fortnight later. The tug test is what tells you, and on numbers, so you know what normal looks like. If 8 out of 10 take that is a good batch. 6 out of 10 is a perfectly ordinary batch. I have never had 10 out of 10, and I stopped expecting it somewhere around 1,998. Now here is the one I most wanted you to hear, because it decides whether you actually end up with a plant. By the end of September, you will have rooted cuttings. They will look wonderful little green things with new leaves on them. And the natural thing to do, the thing every instinct tells you, is to plant them out into the bed so they can get established before winter. Do not. Here is what happens. A 3-month-old cutting has a root ball about the size of a golf ball. Over the winter, the ground freezes and thaws, and it does that 10 or 12 times, not once. Every thaw lifts the soil, every freeze drops it. A big established shrub does not care. A golf ball of roots gets pushed straight up out of the ground. In March, you find your little plant lying on its side on top of the mulch, with its roots in the air dried out. And you assume the cold got it. The cold did not get it. It was evicted. So here is what to do instead. By zones 3, 4, and 5. Leave them in their pots. After the leaves drop, move the pots into an unheated garage or a shed. Not the house. They need to be cold. They need a proper dormant period. Around freezing is exactly right. Water them once a month, just enough that the soil is not bone dry. Bring them back outside in the middle of April, zones 6 and 7. Sink the whole pot into the ground, somewhere sheltered up against the east or north wall of the house is good, and pile 6 inches of leaves over the top. Zones 8 and 9, they can stay outside in their pots, just keep them out of the afternoon sun and do not let them dry out. And then plant them into the ground next spring, not this fall. In the coldest zones, I would honestly wait until the spring after that and let them spend 1 full year getting bigger in a pot. 10 months in a pot feels like doing nothing. It is not. It is the difference between having a plant and having a story about a plant you nearly had. 2 things people always ask. The glass of water. Somebody always asks this, so let me answer it now. Can you just stand a cutting in a glass of water on the windowsill? Sometimes, yes, and then it dies when you pot it up, and you never find out why. Roots that grow in water are a different thing from roots that grow in soil. They are thin and brittle, built for a world with no resistance and unlimited water. When you move that cutting into a pot, most of those roots snap or rot, and the plant has to start over from nothing, usually in October, which is the worst possible month to start over. If you enjoy watching roots appear in a jar, and it is a lovely thing to have on a windowsill, then do it. But pot it up the moment you see the first roots at about ½ an inch, not when it finally looks impressive. And know that perlite and soil will beat it most of the time. The tag on the plant. One more thing, and I have not seen anybody else mention it. Go and look at the tag your hydrangea came with if you still have it. If it says Endless Summer Bloom Struck Limelight Incredible Firelight Little Lime, or if it has the letters PP followed by a number that is a patented variety, somebody spent 15 years breeding it and holds a patent on it. Propagating a patented plant is not permitted, and that includes doing it at home. Now, nobody is coming out to your yard about one cutting, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. But do not sell them, and do not put them on a fundraiser table. The older varieties are free and clear. Nico Blue Annabelle, the old mopheads, and anything that came out of a neighbor's yard 40 years ago. Root as many of those as you like, and I will tell you something. Those old plants are usually the tough ones anyway. They have been passed hand to hand for decades, precisely because they are the ones that keep going. So, this month, 4 things pin 1 branch down. 4 minutes. If you do nothing else from this video, do that one. Take 8 cuttings, 1 cool morning this week. 8, not 2. Some will not take, and you want the margin. Bright shade, not sun. Whatever you cover them with, keep it out of direct sun. Mark your calendar for the last week of September. That is when they get moved somewhere safe for the winter, not planted into the ground. Pin cut shade mark, that is the whole job. There is one thing about all this that I did not expect when I started. A hydrangea you bought at the garden center is a purchase. A hydrangea you rooted off somebody's plant is a different object entirely. Every time you walk past it, you know whose yard it came out of. I have given away more of these than I could count. 1 to my daughter when she bought her first house. 1 to the woman who moved in across the road because her front bed was empty and mine was not. And a few years ago, 1 to a friend who was selling the house where she raised her children and could not take the garden with her. We took 12 cuttings off her hydrangea on a Saturday morning in August. 4 of them made it. 1 of them is in her new front bed now, and it is taller than she is. That is something you can do for somebody, and it costs $4 and 1 morning. So tell me in the comments, who are you making one for? A daughter, a neighbor, a house you are leaving behind? Those are the best comments I get, and I read every one of them. Put your zone in there too. And if you are not sure whether your variety is patented, describe the tag, and I will tell you. And if you know somebody who has 1 good hydrangea and no idea they could have 5, send them this. Just the link. I will see you in the next one.